Welcome to the United Methodist Student Day podcast. We're counting down to the last Sunday of November, so together we can empower students who will make a difference around the world. Thanks for joining us and for supporting the next generation.
All right, well, welcome to the United Methodist Student Day podcast. We're super excited for today's conversation. We got somebody from the General Board of Higher Education and Ministry. We've got somebody from head office today to talk to, Allyson Collinsworth. Super excited to have you on the show today, Allyson.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You are the person on the other end of the phone and the email and the applications, and so I'm really looking forward to jumping in to that today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your role with GBHEM?
Okay. I am the Executive Director of the Office of Loans and Scholarships. So we administer over 60 scholarship programs and 20 loan programs.
Amazing.
We're able to award about $5 million a year to United Methodist students.
Fantastic. So you're like their best friend. You're like the, yes, I got it. You know?
I am very popular.
Nice. Yeah, if you're a student watching today, this is the person on the other side of the conversation ultimately. So now why don't you tell us, for people who aren't aware what United Methodist Student Day is, what is it and why is it so important to the life of our church?
So United Methodist Student Day is a special offering of the church. It's where the local church collects money that ends up coming to my office and straight through my office back as scholarships to our students. It historically came from the loan fund, came to the loan fund that was originally created, but every penny that goes into that offering comes through this office and is put right back out as a scholarship to the student today.
Oh, now that's 100%?
Yes, it goes through different places. The annual conference to GCFA, which is our finance agency, but then the money ends up coming straight back through here and we write the check out to scholarship recipients.
Very cool. Now, why don't you tell us, why a church should be involved in this? Like, it seems like, I know we've got a few of these, we've got 6 of these days a year, and I know some churches opt out, right? They're saying like, hey, this isn't something I don't necessarily want to be a part of. Why are you passionate about it? Why do you think this is important for us to continue to do?
Well, I'm passionate about it today because I see the students that I take applications in for, and I see what they're doing and leading in their churches and active in their communities and missions. And so I don't like having to tell some of them no, which I do have to. I end up turning about 700 students away a year that we just don't have the money for.
Right.
I don't want to do that. So I'm passionate in getting enough money to award everyone.
Absolutely.
The next thing is this Sunday was actually the very first special Sunday. It dates back to 1872 when the United Methodist Church decided to have special offerings. And it was solely for helping the United Methodist students move forward. It initiated with a collection in Sunday schools to advance education for Sunday school members, children. And it moved into where we were funding loans and scholarships for all students in the United Methodist Church.
Cool. What's been kind of the kind of average number of applications that have come in, or over the, kind of in a typical year? What does that normally look like?
About 5,000 applications a year.
Wow.
Not all get completed, so we end up reviewing about 2,500.
Right.
And then end up having to turn some away because there's not enough money.
Right. What does that process look like? Like, how do you actually, is that what those filing cabinets are behind you? You've got to read those 2,500 applications yourself? What does that look like?
Now we are all online, so we're going into the 21st century finally.
Yes.
We do have an online application, and it opens in January and closes in March. So electronically, we kind of screen all the applications and determine who's fitting and so they can be awarded. But we also bring in scholarship committees, people from our board of directors or from our United Methodist schools or the annual conferences, and come in and review them. We kind of put them into different categories, and then they read and determine who's awarded, and then we administer that payment for them.
Very cool. Now, what are you looking for in an application? Like, what is the kind of the framework that you use to try to determine, does this student kind of make the cut for the scholarship?
It's a great question. I would say the most important factor is leadership in their local church. We have a way of asking that question, and so that they're active, they're not just attending church on Sunday, but they're very active, maybe in their youth group if they're still in high school, or coming back, working in their Wesley Foundation, on campus. But activity in the church is the number one quality, to make sure they're still connected with the United Methodist Church.
Yeah, very cool. I know this is just a real practical way for church leaders to stay connected with students as they go to college. I think there's a lot of times in churches they can kind of wrestle with, like, how do I stay connected? This is one practical way, reaching out, first hosting student day, and then encouraging students, hey, if you're going to college, if you're doing some more studies, why don't you apply for a scholarship? What a practical way to kind of keep them connected, both to your local church and to the broader United Methodist movement. Which I think is great. It's fantastic. Now, you specifically, were you a recipient of United Methodist Student Day scholarship?
I didn't know about this office until I started to work for this office.
That's funny.
A bit aggravating, but no. And I think the perception in the beginning, or at one point, was that they had to be going to a United Methodist school. Okay. And that's not always the case. So we have enough programs that they just need to be a member of the United Methodist Church for 1 year, with some activity in leadership in that. So the word just isn't out enough. But I'm also afraid of getting the word out too much, because I'd have more people I'd have to turn away. So give to this day so I don't have to turn people away. Absolutely.
Well, that's our hope, that church leaders that are listening in today who may be saying, I just don't know. I don't know that I could do another one of these days. What would you say to them? What would you, you're sitting across the table and someone's saying, I'm not sure whether I want to participate. We want us to participate in Student Day. What would you say to them?
I would say, do it as a celebration of the students in their congregation. Many churches use it kind of as a graduation. It's supposed to be celebrated around the Sunday before Thanksgiving, but it can be celebrated anytime. So maybe the end of a year or at graduation time, when you're recognizing your students, use it as a time to celebrate them and their advance in education. My office also sends out certificates to all the pastors who have students in their congregation who've received a scholarship. Oh, nice. We ask them to recognize them in the service while they take the collection, to just kind of bring it full circle as to who they're helping in their congregation.
Nice. Okay, very cool. Yeah, I know one of the things that I've heard church leaders say is this is a great opportunity, like you say, to celebrate students. It's a super practical way to say we love our students. We love the kind of vibrant part that they provide in our community. Now, what are the kinds of things people are studying? Is it narrowly defined? Like, do they have to study just like is it just like biblical studies or something like that, or is there a wide variety of things?
It's not restricted because there's 60 various criteria. Now, Student Day does go to specific programs, but my office supports all the criteria, and so it can be anywhere from nursing school to ministry. Yes, seminarians and young clergy and studying for your Master's of Divinity is a priority in the office, but it's not the minimum requirement to apply for this. So if you're a member of the United Methodist Church and you're active and you love your church, apply for this and you will have a good opportunity to receive funding.
Absolutely. Are there any students, particular students that come to mind that you think, when you think about this program, that kind of stick out, that you're like, okay, that's kind of an interesting story, about the difference that this made in their world? I know it's hard. When there's thousands of students, I know that's very difficult. I realize that's a tough question. But are there any that stick out?
I think about I won't say names, but there's a Journey Toward Ordained Ministry student who came here from Brazil, and his assistance with the scholarship program, which also has a mentoring component with it, helped him to become an elder in the United Methodist Church, and he is now thriving and bringing more people into the church. That's a success story, definitely. Then you have another student who was just very active in the choir at church and is now leading worship for a church in his college town.
Very cool.
He's actually attending church in his college town now versus going home every weekend, which he could do because he was close enough. But
very cool.
He's gained that dedication to the church.
Nice. That's amazing. What a great kind of practical bridge for our churches to participate. All right, just two last questions. If there's a student listening in who's like, oh, I don't know, it's a lot of work. I've heard there's like essays. I got to write stuff. What would you say to a student who's thinking about, maybe hesitating whether they should apply or not?
Well, it's maybe an hour at the most of your time. Could be well worth it to just get the connections. I say it's your own fault if you're not willing to put the time in to at least apply and learn about the process. You'll learn more from the process than anything else, and it's worth it.
Absolutely. And one of the things I've heard repeatedly from students on this podcast has been that they didn't find the process onerous, that it wasn't, it wasn't like, okay, this is crazy, it was well worth it. And same thing, students reflect the same thing. Hey, it didn't take that long to pull together. It was a great thing to participate. Well, Allyson, I appreciate being on the show today. Is there anything else you'd love to share with people before we let you go? I know you've got those applications to try to wade through, so anything else you could share today?
I would just encourage anyone to give to this fund. You don't have to be United Methodist to give online. Your present is the church's future.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate that, Allyson. Thanks for being on the show today. Thank you for the work you do day in, day out. One of the things I know people can have confidence because it's not just some faceless organization out there. It's folks like you serving every day. So thank you for that. Thank you for your service to the broader church.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the United Methodist Student Day podcast.
We want your church to join us for this special Sunday that supports our next generation of leaders. Drop by umcgiving.org for more information on how to get involved.